Hi, everybody. Hi, people online. Welcome back to the joint conference of the European Commission and the European Central Bank. I'm Rebecca Christie, and from Brussels, I represent Bruegel, the international economics think tank, here with Enrico Letta, whose accomplishments are legion. But here in particular, we're going to talk about the amazing report on the single market that you did a couple of years ago, which I have been saying consistently is going to be a reference book used for policymakers for years. And what I love about your report is that any new politician can come in, take it off the shelf, flip through and find something and say, oh, I need a European project, I'll do that one. And it's such a great reference. So I guess my first question to you is, in the 2 years since your report came out and Draghi's report came out and other reports came out, have we made any progress?
We started having progress in some fields. The one we are discussing here is maybe the most important one. But I have to say that there's an acceleration I see an acceleration in the last 3 months. An acceleration in the last 3 months, I think, is related to what is happening around us, around Europe. And we have to, I would say, take advantage of all these pressures. But my answer is yes, I see an acceleration in the last 3 months. And the most important point for me is the common decision that the three institutions, the Commission, the Council, and the Parliament took 10 days ago in Cyprus, when they decided to have a joint declaration on a roadmap. A joint declaration for me is very important because it was exactly what I asked the leaders in Aldenbizen when we had the retreat with Draghi too. And I asked them, you can't have an act unique as we did in the 80s and 90s because there are no treaty changes. But you need to try to, I would say, upgrade the level of the different legislative interventions and to create a package. Otherwise, we continue fragmented on different tracks without having in mind the big picture. And the big picture for me is fundamental. And the package logic is also fundamental to have countries on board, political parties on board, stakeholders on board, because with the package, you have someone looking for something inside the package, and it's easier to have les arbitrages. That is fundamental in the European negotiations.
So, speaking of national arbitrage from the different rules in one country to another, what about the efforts to integrate financial supervision? It's something that the Commission has put forward a good proposal, the ECB has put forward a supportive opinion, the industry has been fairly supportive, and yet, politically, it looks like it's going to be a very difficult road.
It is clear that this is the crucial political complicated issue because of differences among the member states and because of is the consequence of 30 years of non-integration of the financial markets, if I may say. The consequence is that we have some, I would say, situations that were de facto situations. There are de facto situations in which, because of the lack of integration, you had some countries taking the lead, countries that are not very big countries in dimensions, if I may say. And these countries took the lead on some of these and taking advantage of the lack of integration. So today, and this is the multiplication of all the usual difficulties we have in Europe to integrate that are related to the dimension and the fragmentation of legacies. I think the main problem we have in Europe, that is our strength, is that we build always on legacies, existing legacies. And we have existing legacies, and to try to, we say, to merge, to consolidate, to put together existing legacies is always very complicated because all the ones that are owners of these legacies are resisting. They want to keep the legacy for them. And this topic is clear. I think we need to, at the end of the day, it will be necessary to have some creative compromises on that. And that is typical of Europe. We need to stop the clock one night in a closed doors meeting, and then they have to exit with a solution, maybe creative solution, but step forward in comparison with the present situation. Because it is clear that the present situation with 27 authorities is one of the most important problems. And also the sense of the message is fundamental. Give to the rest of the world, we are working with one integrated system, as we do here. I'm very happy to say that here from the ECB headquarters. Because at the end of the day, the ECB is the same. When we started with the euro, the main problem was, I remember very well, I was a student at that time. The main problem of the creation of the euro was where is the place, the physical place of the central bank. And the fact that the physical place of the central bank was in Germany was the most important political issue. Today is not an issue at all. I have to say, nobody thinks that there's a problem because it's in Frankfurt, in Germany. But I remember 30 years ago, 35 years ago, it was the problem. So the creativity at that time was the creativity to say, we have Frankfurt, and we create a link between Frankfurt and the 11, 12 at that time, and then 21 today, national central banks. They have a role, they have visibility towards their national audiences, but at the same time it's here that we decide all together. So I think we have to invent something similar, but we have to present it to the general audience at world level to say, hey, we are going in the right direction. And we have to use everything we can to upgrade also the level of knowledge, awareness about the topic that we are discussing here today, SIU, Savings and Investments Union. I can tell you all the details on the nights in which we decided the name, April 24, SIU. But what I would like to say today, I'm sorry if I was putting down the level of the discussion, but I think it's very important. If you ask AI what a SIU is, AI will answer SIU is linked not to a great Portuguese, but not Albuquerque, but Cristiano Ronaldo. Because SIU is the way of Cristiano Ronaldo celebrating his goals. And you have 99% of references of SIU to Cristiano Ronaldo, not to Albuquerque. So it's the wrong Portuguese. So I think we have to start from that, considering that if SIU remains here in these rooms, we are dead. SIU has to become a great political message, as the euro was a great political message. If we are not able to make possible that in 2 years' time, SIU for AI is also Albuquerque, is also Savings and Investments Union, not only Cristiano Ronaldo, I think everything will be lost. If we are able to go in that direction, I think we can be successful.
So Savings and Investment Union is including not only the Capital Markets Union, but also the Banking Union, which, as you point out, has been consolidated supervisory here in Frankfurt, along with monetary policy. But we haven't seen the industry follow the same cross-border model. How can we get more cross-border banking and maybe cross-border mergers in the European banking system?
I think it is the same discourse of the visibility of Savings and Investments Union. I come back to the meeting we had with the leaders. They invited us. I was with Draghi one day with them. And what we asked them was to take the leadership of this exercise, saying very clearly that the main example of consolidation and mergers at European level was not a market outcome. Airbus was not a market outcome. It was a political engagement. Countries that decided that we needed to scale. And scaling is absolutely fundamental. Today, it was one of the topics of the two. Congratulations for the presentations. I liked very much. And the topic of scale is absolutely clear. It's fundamental. But to get the result is not just a market. Why? Because the institutional architecture we have is against scale. It is national. We protect national champions. We protect national champions every day. We fight every day with the rules we have against consolidation, European champions. Sorry if I put down once again, but for my professional academic reasons, I rent an apartment in a big European capital. We negotiate everything for the change of the energy in this apartment, call center, everything very effective. The call center at the end asked me two final informations to complete the dossier. Bank account number and please your telephone number. I give my bank account number, I give my telephone number, and the call center silent. And I ask him, is everything okay? I'm sorry, what is this IT at the beginning of the bank account number? I don't recognize it. And what is this plus 39 in your telephone number? I need, and I don't tell you which is the country that is involved. Otherwise, I confess that my first temptation was to say, please, I send you my report on the single market because it can show that I have a constitutional right to have energy in this country, even if with a bank account in Italy or a telephone number in Italy. What was the conclusion? I bought another telephone and I opened another bank account. That was the third, because I am also activities in another country in Europe. So 3 bank accounts, 3 telephone numbers, only because we have systems, the present systems, are protecting the national champions. And we are organized by protecting national champions. We say we have the roaming. I'm very happy with the roaming, but try to live in another country, without a telephone number of the country. It's impossible. So this is why I say, answering your question, the point is political. And this is why I told the leaders, if you are not able to move and to break the ice of all this mess, it will be impossible, because it's not, the markets are not able to break these, I would say, ceilings that are political ceilings at the end of the day. We organized it, and now we have to break it.
So SIU is on all of the 10-point plans. The leaders repeatedly invoke it in their conclusions. But every time they do a dedicated summit on this, there's a war or an oil crisis. So how do we get them to do this?
I think we have to link to the war. It's very simple, as simple as that. If we don't, we are not able to upgrade the level of visibility of what we are doing. So it is very simple. What I think it is fundamental is to link everything we are doing on the integration of single market to security, to independence, to strategic autonomy, to the fact that we, as Europeans, we have so many threats today, challenges, pressures from abroad, that it is clear that we have to build up our own security strategy, strategic autonomy, ideas and path, and so on. And this is part of that, but for a very simple reason. If we are not able to scale on the financial markets, the power of Europe will be under threat. I have to say, we have today we are starting experiencing this, I would say, declining power because of that. I come back to AI. AI tells that Cristiano Ronaldo is SIU and not the European Union, Albuquerque, von der Leyen, Lagarde, and so on. I was in a panel 3 weeks ago in the US. I was chairing a panel on the question, can Europe scale? ? And we had European and American panelists. And the first panelist, I asked the panelists to answer with yes or no, first round, and then deepening. And the first panelist said, I didn't know how to answer, so I asked AI to answer. Can Europe scale? ? And so he read the answer of AI, and the answer was no. Europe is not able to scale to that because of saying that there are 2 perfect reports that are telling what to do, but Europe will never do it, and for political reasons and so on. And I asked him, but which kind of AI is this one? And of course, it was an American-based AI. Then someone in the audience raised the hand, and he read the answer of a European-based AI. And the answer was, yes, Europe can scale. The main problem is that we Europeans, we use the American AI, not European one. So even for us, the answer, and I complete the story, I was in Shanghai last week. I discussed and I told the Chinese audience in Fudan University this story, and of course, a Fudan professor. I asked DeepSeek, and the answer of DeepSeek is, yes, Europe can scale. So at the end of the day, we have on these topics a discourse that is related to the fact that it is power. It is power, because the truth is different depending on the different AI, and the most powerful one is the American one, not the European one, because of the lack of investments, because we weren't able to put all the money that the Americans put for the development of their AI and for the attractiveness of our talents to work for their AI. So I think at the end of the day, it's a question of power.
AI is famously backward-looking and famously always searching for the answer that will make the questioner most happy with the answer. So to get it more forward-looking, you talked about creative solutions. There's a lot of talk now about coalitions of the willing, about enhanced cooperation, and yet there also is a provision in the treaty that says we shouldn't use enhanced cooperation to get around the single market, to move at different speeds. So is there a way for the E6 or a different group of countries to move ahead on single supervision, or do we really need to get some of the host countries, some of the outspoken opponents on board for this to go anywhere?
I will answer in a way in which you will be probably surprised. If we exclude the topic of the supervision that we mentioned, where it is clear that there's a different proposal and different approaches concerning 2 countries that are not the biggest countries of the European Union, the most complicated issues within the European Union on the topics of the single market are putting together the big countries on the same line and not having the big countries challenging each other for one topic or not being good in creating a coalition with the 4, the 5. I always remember what Jacques Delors told me, saying that, but in reality, it was not just because of me. It was because I had 4, 5 prime ministers pushing all together, sitting around me, Kohl, Mitterrand, González, Andreotti, and so on. And they were always pushing in the same direction, not with a dispute among them. This is what I don't see today, if I may say very frankly. Today we need to have the package, the pillars of the European Union are the big countries. But the big countries, they have to move in the same direction. This is why the group of 6, I like it. I think it's a good point And I hope they will be. I hope the same six will do the same on energy, for instance. And they don't, because on energy is a mess, because they have different approaches. And we are not able to have a European grid, for instance. And today, if you speak with an entrepreneur or all the business people around Europe, they tell you that the main problem is the energy cost today for them. And on energy, we are not able to give important solutions. The same on connectivity. You have different approach. So I answer your question saying that coalition of the willing, yes. But I would like, before discussing about coalition of the willing, having one point that I always repeat every moment in which I present the report in the capitals, I discuss with the leaders. Single market is with majority rules. Because we have this idea that everything in Europe is with the veto right or the unanimity. That is not true. All the single market issues, but taxes, are with the majority rule. And the main problem is that we are applying as behavior the behavior that the leaders usually apply within the European Council. And this is a very bad behavior. In the European Council, they, as you know very well, they don't take formal decisions on texts. In the European Council, they have at the end a document in which they have to, I would say, there's an equilibrium of the language to have everyone on board, because you have to end up all the meetings of the European Council having everyone on board. That is one exercise, very political, and I have to say Antonio Costa is fantastic in doing this exercise. But when you decide, you need to decide, even if you are 20 against 7, 22 against 5, 19 against 8. And we usually try always to apply the same method that we apply for the European Council in the councils of ministers. And I see there the problem. We have to make exactly the opposite exercise. So we need to have, using the majority rule, because the majority rule is there to help Europe to decide. And using the majority rule and taking decisions. My experience, my political experience in my past in politics, is that many times one country has to say no. But in reality, they are very happy if the others take the decision. They have to say no for political reasons, because they have to show to a national constituency, a national representations, corporations, whatever, that they are defending the national interest. But they know very well that it's important to take the decision and to go forward. But sometimes they prefer to say, okay, I abstained or I vote against. Okay, we decide and we go. This idea that we have always to say all 27 with the spirit of the European Council, I think it's a very bad idea. So I start with this point, go on. Coalition of the willing, yes, this group of the six, I think is a positive one. But at the end of the day, the big need, this is what I asked to the leaders in Aldenbiesen, they have to take the leadership of this entire initiative. Because at the end of the day, if this topic, as it happened for the Capital Markets Union, remains in these rooms, or in the rooms of the experts on financial markets, I think the destiny will be the same of the Capital Markets Union. So this topic and Savings and Investments Union will be a success if Savings and Investment Union becomes a topic that the leaders can explain to the people. When we decided, and when I decided at the end of the day, it was my own responsibility to say, I took different suggestions also from here, from other important central banks and so on, which terms we have to use. Capital Markets Union was not a success for many reasons. So savings and investments union, I insist on the S. That was a big discussion for the capital market union. There was a big discussion on the S on these points. But it is fundamental because we discuss about savings, and savings are the people. And we discuss about investments, and investments are our common future. So we need to develop a narrative that can be able to extract all this discussion from all the expert closed rooms. Of course, we need experts trying to make it possible in the most effective way. But if we are not able to transform it to an answer to what is happening today in the world, with Europe, in relationship with the US, and so on, it will be very complicated. The European citizens, they have to see this initiative as something that will be useful for their savings, useful for their pensions, useful for them. Europe is giving you something positive, better than what you have with the present national fragmented situation. This is a fundamental point, but you have to speak to the people. And the same for investments. We need investments. Public finances are not enough for these investments. And using arguments like AI, in the US, they won on AI, not because of public money, because of private, because of financial investments. So we have to use this argument, and we have to be able to convince people that it is fundamental for the future of Europe.
It's a great idea. For the last question of our chat, I want to ask you about risk. One of the things that you've mentioned is, technical things like auto-enrollment, but certainly in the European country I know best, you auto-enroll into an insurance product which has no risk and no return, and in some countries there isn't even that to auto-enroll in. So given that Europe is built on legacies, on continuation, how do we take not just risk, but the right risks? So we're investing in the future and not lottery tickets to move forward.
I try with an answer that is a little bit complicated, but I'm convinced that is the answer. Why we are so risk adverse in Europe? Not because of our stereotypes or normal characteristics, because we always use some collective psychological discourses on that. I think there's something more. And this something more is related to the financial crisis. We experienced a financial crisis that the others didn't experience. And for the first time in Europe, we had problems to taking money at the ATM. Not being able to take your money from a bank is something that is a nightmare for a citizen having his own life today, family, kids, and so on. And we experienced that. And it was years to exit from this sense of crisis. My point is that, are we sure that today we are completely out from an experience like the one we had? I think so. But I know that the lack of completion of the banking union, for instance, is creating in some leaders, in some decision makers, not an immediate, they won't tell you that in a conference, but in the back of their mind, the idea to say, if there's another crisis, which is the room where at midnight, Sunday, we take decisions, and who is in the room, is a question where there are some doubts still today in Europe. And I think this is the main problem, because if we are able to give the answer to this question, then the problem of risk aversion can be treated in a totally different way, because we can also raise the level of risks that we can take if we are able to know that there's a safety net that guarantee everything. That is what they have in the US. At the end of the day, they know that there are problems, but one night, Sunday night, they know how solve the problem. And I have some doubts on the fact that here we know Sunday night how to solve this problem, knowing that what we had in 7/11 was something that we solved, but when the crisis was over, we stopped the integration of the banking union. And we are still there, 12 years later. And because I was there as Prime Minister, and I can tell you that it was so long time ago that I even forgot when I was Prime Minister. But the problem is still open in these 12 years, and I think it's not the right decision.
Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you, for your time. Thank you to former Prime Minister Letta for your ideas and your support of the single market. I would ask all of you to stay in your seats. We have a panel conversation next, but I hope this conversation has given you a lot to think about. And thank you.